when it comes to video games and gun violence, there's always been a long-standing debate, especially after a tragedy like the one that we just had in Nashville. In the past, we've had Columbine, and Doom was hugely blamed for that tragic event, along with other games throughout the years, GTA, Mortal Kombat, you name it. Anytime there's some kind of huge event and tragedy that involves violence, video games comes at the forefront. And in this situation, which happened in light of the tragic events that happened in Nashville earlier this week, which, let me get this right off the bat, I know there's going to be naysayers in the comments saying that I'm farming for clicks and views off of a tragedy. That's no shape and form what I'm doing here. I'm trying to tie it to a topic that I previously talked about, because oftentimes when you hear about video game violence and gun violence, people like to point it to the side of the right, the people that are pro-gun, the people that are pro-NRA, and this is a very touchy subject, especially for people in the United States. So much, that it actually causes divides in our political landscape. And I know there's going to be people in the comment section from other countries that are going to say they don't understand why it's such a big deal in the United States. I'm not going to touch so much on the political aspect of this, because at the end of the day, no matter which way you lean, left or right, there was innocent children that lost their lives in the wake of this situation. A while ago, I made a video about a game called Terfenstein 3D. Here's a thumbnail for it. And I called it the Woke Wolfenstein, because this game essentially is a Wolfenstein clone where you go and basically kill and shoot a whole bunch of, I guess, gender fascist people in a concentration camp. It's a very controversial game. And I made a video talking about it, showcasing the trailer and everything. And it's very similar to what you would have seen out of Wolfenstein. I am so sorry for that pumping up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the trailer. So you can see in the trailer, you're shooting priests. You're shooting what looks like to be officers. Anybody that's labeled TERF, which is a trans exclusionary radical feminist. I believe that's the terminology. Basically, it's people who are against trans people, and they're labeled as people that are against trans rights. And it's a very touchy subject. But look how chaotic and violent this game is towards people that, I guess, are being labeled as anti-trans. And when you look at Nashville and what happened there with the person that was actually responsible for it, you got to think maybe they might have been influenced by this. I'm not, saying they did. I'm not saying anything. This is all just speculation and just conversation. But when you think of video games and like Doom, it's a unrealistic setting. It takes place on Mars against demons. Yes, it's absolutely violent. It's absolutely insane with how much blood and destruction is in it. But when you look at Terfenstein 3D, it's a little bit more of a realistic setting. Yes, it's a fantasy type of environment because there's no such thing as gender fascist concentration camps. As a matter of fact, if you look at the description of the game, you can see right here it says, it's a first-person shooter game with a retro style from the early 90s, considered a creative iteration mix of Wolfenstein 3D and Doom 1. You'll be progressing through 7 levels of increasing difficulty and complexity with a set of 6 classical weapons. The game offers a LGBTQ plus transgender and feminist themes of gender-critical people and what a post-war apocalyptic world would look if gender fascists won. In this dystopian world, fascists have killed and imprisoned all transgender and queer people, subjecting them to harsh conversion therapy, imprisonment, and death. You play as an escapee fleeing their detention center while you exact your revenge. The game brings to light the very real transphobic violence many transgender people face for just existing and draws a comparison between gender critics and Nazi Germany. That's a bit extreme in my opinion, and honestly, the video that I made, not even, 2 months ago, a month or two ago, definitely feels like it did not age well with the situation based on Terfenstein 3D. When you think of that, there's a huge difference between a Doom or even a Wolfenstein 3D to where somebody's making a game where you're literally killing people that are labeled as gender fascist. It's almost sickening and grotesque in a way, and it makes my stomach knot up because realistically, do these people that are LGBTQ, AI plus, whatever it is, do they honestly think that they're going to be put in concentration camps and forced to like live a life like the Holocaust? That's a bit of an insult, actually, I would feel, to Holocaust survivors. I feel the situation is nowhere even comparable. You have a whole race of people, a whole religion of people that were killed because of their religion and their race. And then you have people over here making up a game that is overly violent, pushing a political driven narrative that I feel in no real way will be even realistically possible. And it's fucking sickening that those same exact people that made this game would have lost their shit if somebody made a game the opposite way. What if somebody made a game where you're a straight white male escaping a transgender camp and you have to kill all the transgender people? They would have lost their shit. And for some reason, when it comes down to gun rights and banning guns and stuff, it becomes a very ugly subject. And it's not fair to people that are innocent and victims in this, like the children from this past week's events. It almost sickens me to think that maybe something like Terfenstein 3D, which did go viral, and yeah, I covered it, and other media outlets covered it as well, but that could have been the inspiration for the events of last weekend or last week. And it was all based on a weird political driven narrative that these people feel victimized. And I know this is a little bit heavy as far as politics go. Majority of my people that watch this channel, I feel, will agree with me when it comes to gun violence. A lot of the stuff that we do play, even if it's something like Warzone or Call of Duty, is at least based in a setting that is not personally attacking people for having an opposing belief. Name any kind of video game in the past where it was as unbelievably unrealistic against a whole people of a different belief that was made by pro-NRA people and stuff. I know there was a game called like Hatred that was very ugly, which I don't condone that game as well. It was very racist and violent. But think of Terfenstein 3D, think of Wolfenstein 3D, compare the two, and look at the situation. One game, Terfenstein, was made by people that claim to be the tolerant side, that diversity is good, that people should have diverse characters and should be who they are and things like that. But then when you see the creative outlets that side, the woke side, tend to do, it's often a little bit really fucking extreme. And don't get me wrong, there's extreme right as well. But look at this. Look at Terfenstein 3D and just look at how outrageous it is and tie it into what happened this week. And it's a sad situation that did not need to happen. But this game, Terfenstein 3D, didn't get the backlash that it should have. Now if it gets it, I feel it's a little too late. But Terfenstein 3D did not get the backlash that it should have. Sure, there was people that spoke up against it, like myself and the people that are writing negative reviews about it. But how come when it's a game like a GTA or Doom or a Wolfenstein or a Call of Duty, why do they get run through the mud for being to blame for shootings and stuff when it's somebody that's not trans? Why is it ignored and looked to the other side when it's somebody that's trans? Why is Terfenstein 3D getting a slap on the wrist and not being run through the mud like other video games have been for years? Mortal Kombat, you name it. That's the problem that I wanted to address, and it's very sad. And I really didn't know how to talk about this video or bring it up because I know it's going to ruffle feathers. It's going to cause a huge division on here. I'll probably lose subscribers, but so fucking be it. Honestly, I'm tired of not voicing my opinion on it. I feel Terfenstein should have gotten a lot more of a negative reception about it just because of how ridiculous the premise is when it comes to killing people in an unrealistic setting. That like, it's like validating violence because you feel like you're oppressed. And I don't like it. So that's just my thoughts. And yeah, let me know what you guys think.